Everyone wants happiness. It's the one thing every human heart is chasing, the universal language we all speak without words. From the moment we wake up to the second we close our eyes, we're making choices we believe will bring us closer to it. But what if I told you Jesus described a path to happiness that almost no one talks about today? A path that feels upside down, even offensive to our instincts, yet it leads to the deepest kind of joy imaginable. Here's the twist: it has nothing to do with wealth, comfort, or success. In fact, Jesus flips everything we think we know about happiness completely on its head. He takes our natural assumptions and turns them inside out. And once you hear this, you may never see happiness the same way again. But before I reveal it, let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. If happiness was really about comfort, why are so many people with money, beauty, and influence still secretly miserable? Why do the very people we scroll through on social media, the ones we envy and aspire to become, often confess in their quiet moments to feeling empty inside? Why do lottery winners frequently report being less happy than before they won? Why do celebrities with everything we think we want struggle with depression and addiction? There's something Jesus said that explains this paradox perfectly. Something so radical, so counterintuitive, that it almost feels wrong at first, but it's the missing piece of joy the world has forgotten. It's the secret hiding in plain sight. Stay with me, because what he reveals in just a few sentences could completely rewire the way you understand happiness forever. In Matthew 5 verses 3 to 10, Jesus begins his most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, with these shocking words that would have left his audience speechless. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We call these words the Beatitudes, but think carefully about what Jesus just described. Everything he mentioned goes against our natural instincts, our cultural programming, our deepest assumptions about what makes life good. Poverty of spirit? Mourning? Meekness? Hunger? Persecution? That doesn't sound like happiness. That sounds like the very things we spend our lives trying to avoid. That sounds like struggle, like pain, like the opposite of everything Instagram tells us we should want. And yet, Jesus insists this is exactly where true happiness is found. Not just any happiness, but blessedness. A word that means deep, unshakable joy that comes from the very core of existence. Why would he say this? Is he trying to trick us into misery? Or is there something profound here that we've been missing? Let me show you with a story that might feel uncomfortably familiar. There was a man who seemed to have cracked the code of life. Career success that his friends envied. A beautiful family that looked perfect in photos. A house that people drove by just to admire. Bank account growing, reputation solid, future secure. From the outside, he was the definition of blessed. He was living the American dream, checking all the boxes society told him would lead to happiness. But on the inside, he was restless, anxious, always chasing the next promotion, the next purchase, the next achievement that would finally make him feel complete. He'd wake up at 3 a.m. with his mind racing, wondering why nothing felt enough. Why, despite having everything he thought he wanted, there was still this gnawing emptiness that no amount of success could fill. Then one year, like a house of cards in a windstorm, everything collapsed. His business failed in a market crash. His marriage fell apart under the weight of years of emotional distance. His reputation crumbled when the failure became public. One by one, he lost everything he thought defined him, everything he believed made him worthy of love and respect. At first, he thought his life was over. He sat in an empty apartment with nothing but the clothes on his back and a crushing sense of failure. The man who once had it all now had nothing. The successful businessman was now just another statistic of failure. But in the silence of loss, something unexpected began to happen. Without the constant noise of achievement and accumulation, he began to hear something he'd been too busy to notice before. He started praying again, not the quick, distracted prayers of his successful days, but desperate, honest conversations with God. He picked up his Bible not out of religious duty, but out of genuine hunger for something real. And for the first time in years, he admitted the truth. He was broken. He was poor in spirit. He needed help. And that's when he discovered something that shocked him to his core. Even with nothing, he had peace. Even while mourning the life he'd lost, he felt a comfort he'd never experienced in all his years of success. Even while being humbled to the point of starting over, he experienced a joy deeper and more stable than any promotion or profit had ever given him. This is the paradox Jesus is pointing to. True happiness isn't found in gaining more, but in needing less of the wrong things and more of the right thing. Not in striving for the world's approval, but in surrendering to God's love. But let's be brutally honest, this doesn't sit well with us. Every fiber of our being is wired to believe happiness is found in control, in victory, in being admired and envied. Our culture screams at us that joy comes from achievement, from having more than others, from never appearing weak or needy. And Jesus looks at all of that and says, no, happiness begins when you stop pretending you don't need God. It starts when you lose yourself, so you can finally find what your soul was actually created for. But why does this work? And how do we actually live this out in a world that will call us crazy for trying? Let me break this down into steps you can actually take, starting tomorrow morning. Step 1. Admit your need for God daily. Jesus starts with, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." This isn't about money, it's about recognizing that you're spiritually bankrupt without God. Happiness begins when you stop pretending you're self-sufficient, when you stop waking up every morning trying to prove to the world, and yourself, that you've got it all together. Instead of starting your day with anxiety about everything you need to accomplish, try starting it by admitting your need for Him. Say it out loud, "God, I can't do this day without you. I need your strength, your wisdom, your peace." That simple act of humility creates space for real joy to enter your life. Step 2. Don't numb your pain, lean into God's comfort. Blessed are those who mourn. Jesus isn't glorifying sadness or telling us to seek out suffering. He's revealing something profound. Grief and loss open a doorway to God's presence in ways that comfort and success never can. When you lose something, a job, a relationship, a dream, a loved one, don't immediately run to distractions. Don't bury the pain under work, alcohol, shopping, or endless scrolling. Don't try to stay positive and pretend it doesn't hurt. Instead, bring that pain directly to God. Sit with it. Let Him meet you in it. This is how mourning becomes comfort, how loss becomes an invitation to deeper relationship with the one who promises to heal the brokenhearted. Step 3. Choose mercy, purity, and peace, especially when it costs you. The world says happiness comes from winning, from dominating others, from proving you're right and they're wrong. Jesus says it comes from showing mercy when it's undeserved, staying pure when compromise would be easier, choosing peace when your pride wants to fight. These choices look weak to the world. They feel like you're losing. But they create a joy that no one can take away because it doesn't depend on external circumstances. When you choose to forgive instead of getting revenge, when you choose honesty instead of convenient lies, when you choose to make peace instead of proving a point, you tap into a happiness that flows from character rather than circumstances. Step 4. Redefine happiness as becoming, not getting. Notice what Jesus promises. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The reward isn't stuff, it's sight. It's seeing God, experiencing His presence, knowing Him intimately. Happiness isn't about what you own, but who you become in relationship with your Creator. The world sells happiness as something you achieve, something external you can acquire and possess. Jesus says it's something you receive as you align your heart with God's heart, as you become the person He created you to be. And here's the most powerful twist of all. The very things the world runs from, weakness, grief, humility, need, are the exact places where Jesus says happiness is hiding, waiting to be discovered. Stop and think about that for a second. Really let it sink in. If Jesus is right, and I believe He is, then most of the happiness strategies we chase today aren't just ineffective, they're actually distractions keeping us from the real thing. What if the job promotion you're killing yourself to get, the new relationship you think will complete you, the perfect body you're trying to achieve, the social media following you're building, what if those things aren't the cure for your unhappiness, but the very illusions keeping you from discovering authentic joy? And what if the cracks in your life, the losses, the disappointments, the failures, the moments when you feel most broken, are not obstacles to happiness, but the very places where real joy is trying to break through? What if your weakness is not your disqualification, but your invitation? Doesn't that change absolutely everything about how you see your life right now? So let me ask you this question, and I want you to really consider it. What if the happiness you've been chasing your entire life isn't the happiness your soul was actually designed for? Jesus made an incredible promise. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. That's the ultimate happiness, not getting what you want, but seeing who you need. The happiest life isn't about what you accumulate, but about who you become and who you encounter in the process. Maybe, just maybe, real happiness isn't about gaining more, but about losing what doesn't matter so you can find what does. Maybe the upside-down way of Jesus, the way that looks like foolishness to the world, is actually the only path to a joy that can't be shaken by circumstances. Because at the end of the day, success can vanish overnight. Comfort can disappear in an instant. Popularity fades like morning mist. Health fails. Beauty ages. Wealth can be lost. But happiness rooted in God, happiness that flows from knowing Him and becoming like Him, that kind of joy cannot be stolen by any circumstance, any loss, any failure. And that's the kind of happiness Jesus said is worth everything, even worth losing everything else to find it. The question is, are you ready to discover what you've been missing?